Buster. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the election of the president and the secretary for the new fiscal year. I will accept a motion for the offices of president and secretary. Is there a motion? So
I make a motion to nominate Ed Buster as president of the Vail Charter School District and Jen Anderson as secretary of the corporation.
I
So-
accept.
is it per the bylaws or can we,
I can have a
Please,
point
Mr.
of order.
uh-huh.
Mrs. Kudos, I believe the bylaws state that it needs to be the president of the board. The president of the school board needs to be the president of the LLC. Yeah, that's historically how it's been. We
Mr.
can-
King?
Is that correct, Mrs. Kudos? Yes.
As I say, a couple of years ago, I was the president of the charter board. And that's why I made the motion, because right now there's an election coming up and we may not be on the board next year. And that would provide continuity for the charter district.
Yeah, personally, I have no problem with it, but on the agenda, it just says per the bylaws.
If we can, the motion is standing, so we can go ahead and leave that motion. If we'll double check with legal counsel on the back end. If that's fine, then we'll let it stand. If it's not fine, then we'll bring it back for amendment. How's that?
Okay. So do I call for the vote or just let it
You can
stand?
call for a second.
We need a second.
Okay. Do I have a second? You're going to second it?
Mhm.
Okay. And we can vote on it? Are
Can-
we?
And
Mr.
one of the
And
put forward people would like to object.
Right. Mr. Cruz?
just for point of clarification for people who may be watching or listening, the Savano Charter LLC is a limited liability corporation that we've had in place for probably close to 20 years. It was an arm that allowed us to provide financing to do capital improvements at Savano when Savano was a charter school. And because the district can only do a loan for 5 years and that needs to be repaid. So if we have a LLC, allows us to extend a note, which we did a 15-year note at the time and paid that off early. So we keep the charter school, the Savano LLC in place simply as a tool, a potential tool, if we ever need to get creative with some kind of financing around a capital project. In order to do that, we every year need to reelect the officers for the LLC. That's the purpose of this evening, and that's the purpose of the vote. So I just wanted to, and the board members are cued in on that, but thought it'd be useful to explain that to anybody that's in the audience.
Thank you. And functionally, this is really the only meeting of the year that we have it. Okay. So if there's no other comments or questions, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. So I will accept a motion to adjourn at 7:05.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Buster and seconded by Mrs. Tippett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, now with that, as my computer catches up with our next meeting, I'd like to go ahead and call the regular board meeting of the Vail School District Governing Board to order at 7:06 p.m. And would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Consideration of approving the minutes from the regular governing board meeting on July 9th, 2024 as presented. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
I'll second.
Mr. King moves and Miss Anderson seconds. We'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is general functions. And staff, student, and community recognitions. Mr. Crew.
Thank you, President Tippett, members of the board. We don't have any special announcements this evening, but we do have a few recognitions. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Kruth. President Tippett, Mr. Kruth, and board members, I just want to recognize our entire staff and community at Andrada for a great start of the year. We already are up and running, and it was a lot of fun. Specifically, I'd like to do a few shout outs for our front office staff who really set the tone and be able to get the registration and all that stuff done. So Tony White, Meredith Torres, Kathy Ochoa, Debbie Peck, Maria Beta, Jeanette Losa, Stacy Brockla, and our nurses, Brenda Hernandez, and our new nurse, Stephanie Lopez Carpenter. Just a great smooth check-in and registration process and minimal lines, which is always a bonus. Also like to recognize our counselors. As you know, that's a big time of year. The week before, the 2 weeks before, and this week is a big time for counselors. So they have been killing themselves trying to make sure the master schedule is done and all the schedules are changed and the kids are in the right place. So Gloria Bernal, Aaron Townsend, Shauna Nordling, and Ryan Lee, along with our new school social worker, Teresa Hassey. She would help with that too. She just jumps in whenever is needed, and it's nice to have her around. Shout out to our amazing PTO. We had amazing, Chris was there, our spaghetti dinner. And so they put on a free spaghetti dinner for our freshman parents. And that was a lot of fun. We had a good turnout for that. Also wanted to thank Detective Matthew Golden. He came to that and he spoke at that event as well for us and talked about like the dangers of school threats and social media and the impacts that it has. And it was great for those freshman parents to hear that. We had a great professional development on our welcome back week. So we had Melissa Hostin from U of A, Sarah Torres from Arizona Science Teachers Association, Hannah Rude from ADE, Rita Boyd, who you know, Kurt Bertelson from Pima JTED, Megan Cloud and Brandy Dumick, you might know those two, and Levi Hedgepeth. They all provided a great professional development for our teachers. It was a lot of fun and the teachers got a lot out of it. And we even had Pantano join us, and then some of the Micah Mountain teachers joined us as well. We're talking about doing something again like that for all the high schools that are at Andrada next year. Big thank you to Rob Davis and Living Branch Church. They donated a bunch of breakfast ice cream for us to hand out on the first day of school. So we got them all sugared up and ready to go into first period. I'm sure our teachers were super excited about that. But that was fun. Rod and I were outside at the bus bay, not in the air conditioning. So we were sweating and handing out ice cream. Also, Nancy Weber-Graff and Gloria Bernal, again, year after year, do an amazing job with that freshman orientation with the Link crew. And it was just another one of their successes. Finally, I'd like to recognize a few people that have gone above and beyond with our facilities and helping out with our facilities, getting them ready. Rod Carrier, he is the go gadget and running around like the Energizer Bunny, making sure everybody has their desks and everybody has their tables and all the facilities are taken care of. Jim Nelson, who gives up pretty much his whole pre-service week to hang whiteboards, hang TVs, fix things, patch things, he just goes. Our new site tech, Caroline Marvin, we're so excited to have her. She is doing a great job, and her and our John McGuire is our site lab tech. He got everything set up and making sure all the tech was ready to go for the first day, along with checking out Chromebooks, which is a lot, you know, when you get 250 freshmen running through there. And then finally, I say this every year at least once in my recognitions, is Sean Garcia. Man, that guy is amazing. He works so hard. He comes to our school and beautifies our school, painting and doing whatever. What I love about him is I'll say, hey, could you make a little patch there and paint that? And he does it. And then he's like, you know what? I'm just going to paint the whole room because it looks weird just with that patch. So he does an amazing job. So I just want to do a big shout out to him. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. That's all we have for staff recognitions. I just want to pull off of what Mr. Parks said district-wide. We had our leadership meeting this morning. It's the first leadership meeting that we had of the new school year, and talked collectively about the smooth start to the school year. And as Mr. Parks just indicated, the vast number of people at his site that leaned into the work necessary to make the opening incredibly smooth at Andrada happened at 22 other sites across our school district, with staff doing the exact same thing. It's pretty humbling, really, to think about moving over 15,000 students to the right mark and having things prepared and ready to go, and largely without incident. And 2,000 staff, 15,000 students, and the necessary things to pull off a smooth start to a school year. it's stunning. The number of people that need to be processed through HR, the number of requisitions that need to be processed to make sure that supplies are there on time, the number of grounds people and facilities and custodian people that comb through our schools to make sure that they look nice. The work that our bus drivers do to get ready and prepare their buses and do their routes and do the training of staff, teachers, through new teacher induction, all to hit a mark last Monday and last Friday. And again, it was incredibly smooth start to the school year. Walked many campuses in many classrooms, and my common sentiment in all of those was, this isn't the first day. This feels much more like the fourth or fifth week of school. Just things were flowing. And just really good. So I'm incredibly grateful for our staff, all of our staff who leaned in to make the start of the school year such a smooth event. That's all we have for staff, student, community recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Kruth. Next item on the agenda is call to the public. At this time, the board may consider and discuss comments and concerns from the board. Those wishing to address the governing board on items not on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Speakers are requested to hold their comment for 3 minutes, and in accordance with Arizona open meeting law, board members may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on the agenda. And we do have one request to speak tonight. So I'm going to ask Pamela Dean to come.
Thank you, President Tippett. Vail Governing Board members, I'm here to address you tonight because I have worked in Vail on 2 different occasions in 2 different schools. I only left to move into leadership positions in a neighboring school district both times. And so I know what the heart of Vail is. I know what the values that are held dear by you, by your administrators, by your teachers, and I would hope by families. But I have some questions tonight. My first question is, at what age should one of your children be punched in the face, receive 2 black eyes and a black lip and a swollen cheek? At what age should your daughter be told that she's just an Indian and needs to get Indian burns? At what age should your 7-year-old son be shown pornographic pictures? These are just 3 of the items that my family has personally experienced on bus 27 that leaves from Acacia and also has students from OVMS on it. This bus has long been overcrowded. There have long been behavior issues. Some of them, I admit, by my own 2 children who are not blameless at all in any of this. But it absolutely breaks my heart when they get off the bus and they're crying because these things have happened to them, or other things have happened to other elementary students that they know. At the end of last year, things were so bad on bus 27 that a second monitor was added. I'm pretty sure it didn't help because by the end of the year, if I recall correctly, there were 4 seats of students that had special seating at the front of the bus. My son being one of them because he was upset one day because there was no spot for him because he only rides the bus half-time. Many of these issues seem to arise between middle school students and elementary students. The middle school students harass, pick on, bully the younger students. And for the larger elementary students, they are often mistaken for young middle school students. That's what often happens with my son as he gets pulled into these altercations with older boys mostly. At this time, knowing what I know about the heart of Vail, I would invite you as a fellow educator, and I would implore you as a parent of 2 students in this district to re-examine bus 27 that has kids from Acacia and OVMS on it to determine what needs to be the preventative next step to stop these altercations from happening. instead of a reactive step based on things that have already happened. All children in Vail deserve to go to school safely. They deserve to be in their schools safely. And that includes being able to ride the bus safely and without fear of any of these happening. I know that you'll do the right thing because I know, as I said, what the heart of Vail is. And this I humbly present to you as a parent and former educator in Vail. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Mr. Kruth, could you make sure you follow
We'll
up?
follow.
Okay, next item on the agenda is acknowledgement of public requests to speak. Anyone wishing to address the board on items on tonight's agenda may do so at this time or at the chair's discretion at the time the item appears on the agenda. Comments should be restricted to 3 minutes, not including the board questions and comments and responses by the speaker. In accordance with open meeting law, comments and questions may only deal with topics on tonight's agenda. We do have one request to speak on an item on tonight's agenda, but the agenda item is on the consent agenda. So board members are still only able to discuss it if one of the board members requests to remove the item from the agenda. So we'll ask Miss Katie Anderson to come forward.
Good evening, board members, President Tippett, Superintendent Kruth. My name's Katie Anderson. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Desert Willow. This is my 10th year in the district, which feels really crazy. I'm a team leader, the PTA representative for the teachers, an SST team member, an EEP facilitator, the Make a Difference Day coordinator, and a student council co-advisor. I'm also a proud step-parent of kids in our district. Though I did leave for a year to work at the U of A, we joke that we don't talk about it, and I quickly came running back to Vail. I decided to come on a whim tonight and say thank you for the little things you do to make teachers feel valued. Specifically, thank you for providing so many of the delicious catered meals that I've eaten over the years. As a freshly graduated college student embarking on my career, I'll never forget the famous coveted Vail popcorn that sort of felt like an initiation into the Vail community during NTI. To this day, I'm pretty sure people are still trying to recreate it perfectly. Thank you for the chicken taco salad bar I've had the privilege of eating over many training sessions outside of my regularly contracted time to come and try to help continuing serving this community. Just this past summer, I had the privilege of attending a meeting to develop my presentation I'll be giving at our upcoming All Staff Day. Thank you for feeding me a hot meal so I could focus on trying to contribute what I have to offer to my fellow colleagues. It may seem really small, but the opportunity to sit down with a sure meal and enough time to chew and grow in community with my colleagues is really special to me. Food has brought people together since the beginning of time. Thank you for allocating money to these shared experiences that might seem so small, but I just purely wanted to come and thank you because even those small things like that really matter to us. So thanks.
Thank you, Katie. We will go ahead and move forward to correspondence and reports. First item on the agenda is superintendent's report. Mr. Kruth.
Yes, we just heard Mrs. Anderson refer to all staff is on Monday, this coming Monday. We will, all 2,000 plus of us will be convening at the U of A because we no longer fit anywhere in Vail. And we'll be holding our gathering in the morning at Centennial Hall. And we have a new twist, as you all are aware. Just want to state it publicly. In the afternoon, we are holding a professional development sessions where all of our staff, whether you are a custodian, bus driver, a teacher, administrator, whoever, we will be hosting over 70 different breakout sessions. All of them are provided by our own staff and their expertise that they carry. I'm just really excited by that. When you look through the catalog of people who are presenting, research is pretty clear that one of the ways to encourage teachers in particular to stay in the field is to provide them opportunities to deliver high quality professional development and be recognized for their skills, and for teachers to and staff to receive and participate in those same sessions. And just a really great format. It's a boatload of work. We'll talk about more about that in recognitions the next time, but I just want to call out our all staff meeting on Monday. Also, just want to note, we'll have a better picture of what enrollment looks like once we get past the 10-day drop window next week. I believe that's when that happens, but early indicators are that we are trending at least at our enrollment projections for January, maybe up slightly just a tick. So all good indicators for us as we shove this large ship off into the sea of the 24-25 school year. That's all I have for a superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Kruth. Next item on the agenda are board reports. Board members may present reports at this time. Do any board members have a report they would like?
I will then.
Thank you.
I feel like we're just getting back, but this is our first year where we started on Friday and in our home, and it's a different feeling. Actually, I like it, but I am just so grateful. I've been in some of the schools this last week, and just I think my report is thank you. Like I'm so grateful to our staff, and I just want to share. I sat in a freshman orientation last week, and they did a suicide prevention for all of the parents. And a parent that I know was sitting next to me, and he has had kids in the district for years. And he turned to me and said, I really had a negative attitude of kind of coming here. Not that he didn't want to be there, but you know, he's been here. I've heard things. I know things. Do I really need to be here? And after that presentation, he turned to me and he said, that was worth it. And every parent should be sitting here listening to this. And I was grateful for that moment. And I am grateful for these experiences. And so grateful to our counselors and to teachers for all they do, and for times that they don't even know what they're doing and realizing how they're affecting children. And so that's my report today.
I just want to shout out to everybody who participated in all of the back to school frenzy and making everything roll out so smoothly and wonderfully, and making our campuses places where families can and want to come as they learn about their child's school for the year, this child's teacher for the year, or teachers for the year, and what the opportunities are on that campus for their kiddo. All of that goes into serving our families and helping families feel good and happy about where their child is for school, and kiddos feel good and happy about where they are for school. So thank you for every effort that's made in that regard. I'd also like to give a shout out to Commander Roosevelt at the American Legion 109, and Chief Lundy from the Corona Day Tucson Fire Department for their efforts to put on a school supply drive to benefit all of the schools here in the Vail School District. They parked their beautiful truck right there at the Legion, and the generous community came by, loaded it up, and they came with a really wonderful haul of school supplies for our school counselors to come and shop for their school and grab the items that they know that their students and their teachers need to have on hand to serve the students in our community. And it was a really intense effort that they had to make that happen. And I just appreciate the effort that they took. Also, thank you for KVOA Channel 4 for sponsoring the district-wide school supply drive this past Monday at Empire High School. Went to the combined effort of making a really big dent for anything that kiddos might need. So thank you to them for that effort. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. At this time, all items listed below are consent matters and will be considered by one motion at this time. There will be no discussion of consent items. Any board member may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. All items not accepted and approved as part of the consent agenda will be considered individually. Do any board members wish to remove an item? Okay, not seeing any, I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Harut to make the recommendation.
Thank you, President Tippett. Members of the board, it's recommended that the Vail School District Governing Board approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Buster moves and Mrs. Pratt seconds. I'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is old business, and this is a la carte fee structure for families utilizing ESA funds. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Tippett. Members of the board, this is an item that we studied twice over 2 board meetings, and part of that was twofold. One, to make sure we gave it plenty of time, and 2, we wanted to make sure that all board members were present. We had some folks that weren't able to be here each time, but wanted to make sure we presented that when everyone was available. In summary of what the item is, Vail has had a long history of serving homeschool families who want to enroll their kids in some of our programs. It's really an extension of our school choice value that we've held for a long time. Some of the things have changed over the last few years when empowerment scholarship accounts have come online and are available to any parent now who wants to take advantage of that. A family that does that for their child, in essence, receives the funding directly that a school district would receive instead. And so they can choose to direct those funds in the purchase of education for their child, be it private school education or homeschooling them or piecemealing things together as they choose. What we have come to realize over the last year is that families who are choosing to homeschool pretty much universally are taking an ESA now. And that caught us a little bit in that when a homeschool family, as an example, would enroll at a high school for a chemistry class, we could simply enroll that student and receive partial funding for that class, a fractional amount of funding for that they were enrolled. But if they're also enrolled in the ESA, that can't happen because the family is receiving funding for education. We can't double dip on that side and receive that same compensation. And so the family gets a warning on their side and we don't get the funding. And so it really puts a family in a bind in some ways and it puts us in a bind. So we've created an a la carte solution to address those needs so that when we have situations that will arise, we have the ability to receive reimbursement for the expenses that are incurred, and they're simply paid out of that family's ESA. So that's what this is. We think we're the second district in Arizona to do something like this. Frankly, most other districts just don't want to touch the process, but we feel it aligns with our values, and we want to serve those families and provide a mechanism to do that, and frankly also get some reimbursement for the expense that it takes to put those courses on or programs on. So that's what it is. Happy to answer any additional questions. I know, as I mentioned, it was studied and lots of questions were answered over the course of 2 meetings. So happy to review anything again if that would be helpful. But first, I'll go ahead and make the recommendation to Vail School District Governing Board approve the Empowerment Scholarship account fee structure as presented.
I'll accept a motion.
I make a motion
approve
to
as
accept.
presented.
Well, I'm not deciding.
Seconded.
Mr. King moves, Mr. Buster second. Any comments or questions? Mr. King?
Yes, thank you, President Tippett. The question I have is could this à la carte funding be used to pay the stipends or pay stipends to the teachers that actually provide the material to those students? Or had that been considered?
Just clarifying, are you saying stipends for, so let me back up. If I understand you correctly, and I'll just say, again, use my example of a chemistry class, it would not be used to provide an additional funding for a student who is in a chemistry class. The teacher's already paid for that time there. For things that are the programs, whether it be an athletic program or fine arts program, yes, we can use the funding to help offset the additional costs that are incurred in those programs. I don't know that it would go towards the compensation. I don't know that we haven't made any determination whether it goes towards compensation or just go back to support the program. One thing I will say is we have a handful, I mean, less than 10 students that this applies to every year. And so this will be the first kind of learning year on what that looks like on our end as we have to kind of bill through a completely different mechanism. And then once we receive those funds, what's the best use of those funds on our end? So it's not going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. It's going to be a few, much less than that. So we'll need to decide how we can use that, but we actually have to get those funds through kind of a couple of hoops through the state treasury, through a mechanism called Class Wallet. They come to us. So we haven't gotten that far down. I guess short answer to your question is we haven't gotten that far down the path. We need to figure out the collection piece first. But I can say in general, likely wouldn't go towards additional compensation. And in other words, if you had a chemistry class that had 23 students, you're adding a 24th student, that's no different than doing anything else for that teacher. It may be some additional costs for some of the clubs and or programs, and that would probably go directly to those.
Thank you.
One other piece on that, we do have the ability, and we always have had the ability to say, if it wasn't 22, going from 22 to 23 students, it was going from 32 to 33 or something. It was adding class size beyond what we were comfortable with. We have the ability to say no, that class is full, and we have always done that. So it wouldn't be a situation where we'd automatically accept that student into that class if it was overcrowding the situation.
Any other comments or questions? I have one question, because there are some clubs involved and it's also available by like space. Because I know clubs can also get overfull as well. Is that just a process where we reach out to the teacher and just say, hey, we've got somebody interested, can you take one more?
Short answer is yes. So we would, in that, on our end, the process really won't work any differently. We do that now. So if there's a homeschool student that wants to participate, often it's band or choir or one of those things. We work with those directors and say, are you okay with that? And if they're, yeah, then we move forward. We've got the space. It's just adding one more student. If we were in a situation, say it was a middle school club, we would ask the advisor, do you have room? Is that okay? And we'd have to have some conversation as we do with homeschool parents now, what the expectations are, what that looks like to be able to participate. So.
All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, not seeing any, I'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the ASBA Delegate Assembly. This is an action item. So we need to decide who might be available, first of all, to represent the Vail School District Governing Board at the ASBA Legislative Delegate Assembly. And so I guess the first thing is who is planning to be there that Saturday? Okay, so it's the three of us, and Chris, are you pretty much not able to
I can be the alternate.
because of your situation?
Because I served I'm the chairman of the legislature.
Right. And Mr. Buster? Mr. Buster is busy.
I can be the alternate.
Okay, I think we've determined something. Would someone like to make a recommendation? I'll accept a recommendation.
Do you want me to read it? Okay. That the Vail School District Governing Board appoint Callie Tippett as the delegate and Ed Buster as alternate to the assembly on September 7th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. King seconds. I'm gonna call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Okay, we have a short meeting tonight. Next item on the agenda is an executive session. And I'll go ahead and read the executive session. The Vail School District, we actually have to move. I'll accept a motion to move into executive.
I make a motion that the Vail School District Governing Board enter into executive session in accordance to Arizona Revised Statutes 38-34 or 431-03 point A.8. The board may enter into executive session for the discussion or consideration of matters relating to school safety operations or school safety plans or programs.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'll accept a motion.
Second.
And Mrs. Pratt seconds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries.
Take a brief recess and then we can get help clearing the room, then we can leave.